All right. Today we're going to look at the workflow that I use to make cards really fast and really beautiful in Figma. I use a plugin on Figma that is called Google Sheets Sync. It appears to be one of the most popular plugins for Figma that's around right now, and I'm going to provide the link in the description, but you can install this easily on your Figma account and use it. It is quite good, it's quite fast, and basically what it allows you to do is populate images in Figma with information directly from a Google Sheet, and it's really, really sweet. So the reason that I like doing this way is because I think Figma looks really good. It's a product that I actually use a lot at work when I do product management. If I'm making, mock-ups, things like that, it's pretty outstanding. You can iterate really fast this way with this workflow that I'm going to show without duplicating work. And the most important thing of all maybe is all of these tools are free. So basically I'm just going to be using a Google Sheet, and I'm going to be using the free version of Figma and be creating pretty awesome cards from there. So the example that I'll show real quick is I've always wanted to make a fighting game that uses cards. I haven't really figured out how to prototype it yet, but let's say that I have in here just a really simple Google Sheet where you can update and comment and collaborate and stuff. And I have a column for the title of the card. We have punch, kick, block, and parry. We have an attack level for each card, and we have a description for each card. So pretty basic, pretty straightforward stuff. And we want to make cards out of these. So in the early days, I was getting into a lot of like copying and pasting that I wanted to avoid. So we're going to come into Figma and just create a blank canvas. If you've never seen this before, it's really not a very intimidating piece of software. It's quite straightforward and easy to use. I am not a designer and I am not very technical, but this has been a total breeze for me to use. So the first thing we want to do is just create a card. I'm going to move pretty fast so that we can keep this video short, but let's use the dimensions of a standard playing card, so which is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So we'll just kind of give this a little background. And what we're going to do is just add in some text fields here. So let's say that this is maybe where the power or the attack level would go. Make that size 24. Maybe we have the title of the card. That'll go here. And then I think the only other thing we have is the description. So we'll go down here and we'll just say description text. And we can make this be centered here. So what we want to do is actually, to make this sort of repeatable, is actually create a component. And so you can right click on this and create a component. And what you do then is over here you can see the layers of just what we're building, but if you go over to assets up here, now this is a sort of repeatable thing that you can just drag and drop and create as many as you want of. So this is the main one here, this is the component, and these are all sort of like children of that component. So the kind of cool thing that you can do is if we wanted to mess with just the main component to show where the description text is going to go, we could do it on one and it will update it for all of them. So let's bring this to the front so that it's in front of the box, and we can now kind of update all of the children of this component all down here. So that's one really helpful way of avoiding duplicate work is using a component and then repeating it. So now that we have this basic stuff, how are we going to connect it to this Google Sheet? So like I said, you should go to this link and install this plugin, and then it'll be available for you. And then there's just a few things you have to do to set it up, and it's all just related to what you name your components, so, or what you name sort of the different fields here. So on this first one, that is the component, we're going to take this description text, and what you need to do is name it the same thing that it is in the column headers over here. So we have title, attack, and description, and just put a little hashtag or pound sign, depending how old you are, in front of that. So for description, we'd say hashtag description. For the title here, we would say hashtag title. And for the attack amount, we would say attack. So that just tells Figma, or tells this plugin rather, which fields it should be updating. And then let's delete these. We're gonna to update several things at once. We're gonna create another frame in here, and this can be sort of any arbitrary size. But what we want to do is take a bunch of these assets that are created from this component and put them in this frame. And what that's going to do is tell Figma which things to update with which tab in the Google Sheet. So we have 4 cards here, and the other important naming thing here is we need to name this frame the tab title from the Google Sheet so that you can tell it which tab to update from. So right now, by default, this is just called Untitled. If you go back into your Google Sheet, let's rename this to Fighting Cards. And then when we go into Figma, we can take this whole frame, which has 4 of the cards in it, and name it / space Fighting Cards. Did I say Fighting Cards? Plural? Yeah, okay, cool. So now that we are all set up here, you are able to right click on this frame here. You actually don't need to do that. You can do it for the whole sheet if you wanted to, but you're going to click on this Google Sheets sync, which should now be in your plugins section here. So we need to enter the link for the sheet, and one important thing we need to do there is you need to make it your Google Sheet so that it is accessible to, it's viewable at least for people on the web. So if I go back into my Google Sheet and hit share, you can change the settings on the link down here. I think by default it's set to restricted, but I'm going to say anyone with the link can view this document, and then it'll give you a special link here. So let's copy it, go back into here, and for this Google Sheets sync little modal that we get here, we can paste in that link and say update for just this section only. You can do it for the whole document if you want to. Fetch and sync, and just like magic, these cards are now updated with the text from our Google Sheet. So obviously these look pretty ugly because I just threw them together in a few seconds and I'm a terrible designer, but I can show you what this looks like sort of at scale, which is a much larger game that I have. So this is a game called Contingency Plan that I've been working on for quite a while. My friend Grant was kind enough to come in here and help me design some of these to make them look a little bit better. So as you can see, there's a little bit more complexity here. So we have multiple different kinds of cards. There's like 7 different kinds of cards here. There's a different one here that's actually horizontal rather than vertical. You can also see on some of these, you know, we have the sort of power. You can see the hashtag in front of it. You can see the title. You can see the body, but then also there's sort of like passive effects that are on each of these cards. So there's a separate section that's in italics. So I recently play tested this and needed to do a whole bunch of edits. And so I came in here, and this is my big fat Google Sheet where, you know, you can see there's a bunch of different magic cards, a bunch of different swarm cards, and I can come in here and update the text in here quite quickly between rounds and make little notes to myself. And I like to work in Google Sheets just because it's fast and it's easy. And as long as this is all good to go, which I have recently made a bunch of updates here, so it is good to go, I can come in here and go into this card builder, and I've already kind of preloaded these, but as you can see, there's these different frames here. So this one is like, / swarm, which means that it's going to be pulling from this tab. And I have different one for each different type of card. So if we're going to be making these, I think magic cards is the only one I haven't filled out. We have 7 of these magic cards we want to create. So I'm going to go into magic, go over to the assets. I'm going to put some magic cards in there and just do Control D to duplicate. There's 7 of them. It doesn't really matter if they're not lined up perfectly. So now to do the magic, we are going to do plugins, Google Sheets sync for the entire document, fetch and sync. And just like that, we have a whole beautiful set of unique cards with the power level, the description. Down on these ones, for example, on the support cards, you have a little bit of passive text and then also kind of active body down here. And we've got all of those created. Cool things that you can do with this is it's quite easy to just select all of them and export. So if we wanted to do that, we can just sort of grab all of these and come down here to the side and export them. I like to do 1.5 just so it looks a little sharper, and you can just export all of these and it will send them all out as a zip file with all of them saved separately. And then the other thing I like to do is, that's helpful for digital, but I also like to print these frequently. And so I created this other little template that's just like a simple sort of grid that you can print these out at like FedEx or whatever, and I put them on like some heavy card stock, and then I have these other ones down here to show to be the card backs, so you can do kind of a front and back print of all of your new cards. So this has been super helpful for me to iterate really fast, and between every single playtest I can I have pretty extensive notes. I can come in here and just update the text on all this stuff. And then it just takes me a few minutes to just generate all of these new beautiful cards without really doing much duplicate work. So that's the workflow I use. I really love Figma for work and now for game projects as well. So that's it.